What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Today, something a teeny bit different, a little bit of a chatting video. Since I completed the Temple Guitars neck routing jig, a few of you guys have asked my thoughts on using the metric system. Since that whole project was done in metric, you guys wanted to know my thoughts, so let's talk about that. Since I recently wrapped up the Temple Guitars neck routing jig, a couple of you guys have asked this question on how I like working with the metric system. I mentioned in that video that I really haven't used it for a whole entire project, and you guys are curious. I was curious as well going into it. So I would say right off the bat, the very first issue that I encountered was really I didn't have any measuring devices that I could really use other than one small steel ruler. I didn't have any measuring tapes, anything of doing longer dimensions. So that was the first issue that I came across. But that's not a fault of the metric system. Really, that's just because here in the US, I would say most of us probably use the standard system of measurement. We don't really use the metric system. Now, I know some people do, but overall, I would say in general, most people probably don't use the metric system, so we don't have a lot of that stuff on hand. And like I said, that's not a fault of the metric system, that's just because overall we tend to use, here in the US, standard measuring tools. So I had to go out and try to find some measuring tapes, stuff like that, that have metric on them. I found a couple different ones. I ended up using this small 2-meter tape, which I really kind of like. It's got inch and metric on there, so I had to make sure I was looking at the right measurements. But once I kind of got used to what I was looking at, this worked out pretty good. I also got a larger one, but this one really proved to be a little bit too large. This is a 26-foot tape measure, but I picked it up anyway. But a little bit too big for what I was trying to do, but the measurements are there and it would work. Now, I do feel that had I planned a little bit better, I could have ordered some things online and had them delivered. I didn't order these online, I just went around to a couple stores locally trying to get what I could find just because I wanted to get started on the project, and they ended up working out okay. Now, I still might order up some different rulers and things, some nice steel rulers, straight edges, that sort of thing in metric units just for future projects. So that was the first hurdle that I had to overcome. Like I said, not really a big deal, but it's something to think about. If you're going to use the metric system for a project, make sure you have measuring tools that will work. Of course, if you're in a country or a part of the world where you already use metric, well, that's not really an issue, but here in the US, that was my problem. Once I got some measuring tools, I was able to jump into the project. Overall, my thoughts on the metric system were, you ready for it? Drum roll, please. 2 thumbs up, actually. I really enjoyed working with metric. Does that make me weird? I don't know. I don't think so. I really thought it was kind of cool. It was something different. I had to think about things a little different just because I'm not used to it. But the biggest thing that I took away from completing a project this way was, for some reason, I feel like I could be more accurate with my cuts, with my dimensions, by using millimeters instead of inches. And I don't know why that is. Maybe that's not true at all, but that's the way I perceived it when I'm making my measurements. Maybe because there's more lines for millimeters than we typically use for inches. I don't really know. I do have rulers that go down to like 64ths of an inch. There's tons of lines. But for some reason, just using millimeters made me feel like I could be more accurate. Now, I don't really know if my cuts are any more accurate actually. They measure what I was cutting them at, but just in my head, I felt like it was more accurate and I could do a better job of cutting things to the exact correct length. Another thing I really liked about it is trying to do the math, figuring numbers. It's so easy. It's all by tens. I don't know. You don't have to mess with converting fractions and all kinds of this other conversions and things that we do with the imperial system. Metric system, you don't have to do that. I just thought that was kind of cool. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be completely switching over to metric. I'm not really saying that, but I definitely can see me using metric for other projects just to get a little more familiar with it, and especially ones that I feel that accuracy really makes a difference. I think metric, for me, is the way to go. So back to my conclusion of the metric system with 2 thumbs up. I really, really liked it. Now, I'm not trying to sway anyone one way or another or convince somebody to use one over the other, but that is my opinion after using it for a complete project. And we're going to be using it a little bit more in the future. Now, those of you in another part of the world are going to be going, yeah, we could have told you that. We've been using it forever. And you're right. And we've been using inches most of our lives as well. It's just something different and not something we're used to. And I kind of enjoyed it. I really did. So thanks a lot, guys. I hope maybe you found this a little bit interesting. Let me know down below in the comments your thoughts. If you are not typically a user of the metric system, if you've ever used it, let me know your thoughts, how you liked it compared to the two. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.